Chapter 4185. Driving the carriage on the road, Jianshu looked back and said to his master in the carriage, "Master, they are following us. Don't worry about them. Drive your carriage," Wang Yu said, ignoring the carriage behind them. As long as they did not make trouble, they could follow them. The carriage moved forward slowly until it reached its destination. Wang Yu and Du Fan got off the carriage first and went to the carriage behind to wait for Feng Jiu to get off. Look, up ahead is the Green Cloud Jade Pool, and this area is a place to play and enjoy the scenery. In addition, there are wild animals in the forest over there. Some people who come together can try the fun of catching wild animals in the forest and eating wild animals. Wang Yu introduced them and said, "Let's go to the Green Cloud Pond in front. The water there is green and clear. You can go boating and fishing in the pond. If you're tired, you can also rest on the grass or in the pavilion." Feng Jiu followed him to the Green Cloud Pond. Looking at the Green Cloud Pond in front of them, her eyes flashed, and she said, "Where does the water in this pond come from?" She saw that the water near the Green Cloud Pond in front of them was so clear that the bottom could be seen. Gradually, there was a layer of faint mist on the surface of the pond, which set off with the green mountains and clear waters. It looked like a fairy. Moreover, standing by the pond, she could feel that there was a fluctuation of spiritual power in the water, which could not be possessed by ordinary pond water. It is said that the water in the Green Cloud Pond is the underground water source in the Cyan Demon Forest. There has been water in the pond since I can remember. Because the environment here is very beautiful and the water in the pond has a faint spiritual power, the surrounding trees and animals are affected by the pond water and grow very well. Wang Yu said with a smile, "There are also fish in the pond. The fish here are very delicious, but few people can catch them. You see, the people boating in the pond are fishing with fishing rods in their hands. They want to catch the fish in the pond. Why don't they go directly into the water to catch them? Isn't it faster?" Yi Fei asked from the side. She stepped forward and scooped up a handful of water. She felt that the water was unusually cool. Wang Yu looked at the surface of the pool and said, "Someone went down, but he never came up again. Therefore, it is said that there are water monsters in the pool. You can only fish, but you can't go down to catch them." "Water monster?" Yi Fei was startled and turned to look at him. Wang Yu nodded and said, "Yes, but no one has seen it. I don't know what it looks like. Maybe it's just a rumor, or it's deep in the pool." "That's interesting." Feng Jiu's lips curled up slightly as he looked at the bitch and said, "Let's go boating on the surface of the pond as well. If we can catch a few fish, we can have a picnic here. Since that's the case, Fei and I will go and pick up some branches. While we're at it, we'll see if there are any wild animals in the forest." Du Fan said with a smile as he gently fanned himself with the fan in his hand. "Jianshu, you follow Child Du and pick up some branches around." Wang Yu ordered his attendant to stay and help. "Yes," Jianshu answered and looked at Du Fan, saying, "Child Du, I'll take you there." So, Du Fan, Yi Fei, and Jianshu went to the forest, while Feng Jiu, Lung Shuang, and Wang Yu went boating. Chapter 4186. His eyes lit up and he said excitedly to the people around him, Look, it's the woman in red. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." Where? Let me see." The three brocade-robed men next to him squeezed forward and looked in the direction he pointed. They saw several figures standing on the boat. In addition to Wang Yu, whom they were familiar with, there was a woman in red and a woman in black. "I can't see clearly. They're a little far away, and there's some fog over there. I only know that there are two women, one in red and one in black." One of them said, trying hard to open his eyes, but he still couldn't see the appearance of the two women. Let's go boating and see clearly." Zheng San's face was full of lust, and he almost drooled. At this time, there were only a few boats on the surface of the Cyan Cloud Pond. In the light fog, the boats were shrouded in it, and they were looming, which had a different artistic conception. Feng Jiu sat on a small stool, took the fishing rod, and threw the hook into the pond. The hook sank into the pond. Next to him, Wang Yu also fished, but she didn't have much hope. After all, although there were many people fishing here today, at most 1 out of 10 people could catch a fish in the pond. The hook was quiet, and there was no fish under the water. Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows and said, "If the water is clear, there are no fish." "Are you sure there are fish in the water?" Wang Yu smiled and said, "Yes, there are, but the fish in the deep water are less likely to be hooked." Seeing this, Feng Jiu's eyes moved slightly, and he wanted to know if there were fish under the water. So his palm moved, and a wisp of green lotus vitality was injected into the hook. The pure aura of spiritual power and the green lotus vitality spread under the water. Within a breath, a fish swam out of the water and bit the hook. Feng Jiu smirked when he felt the movement of the fishing rod in his hand. He waited for the fish to bite down before pulling it out of the water. With a splash of water, a palm-sized fish jumped out of the water and fluttered. The fish tail swung and water droplets splashed. Wang Yu was stunned and asked, "Did you catch it? Spiritual fish?" Feng Jiu was a little surprised. He thought it would be an ordinary fish, but he didn't expect it to be a spirit fish. It must be known that this kind of natural spirit fish was helpful to cultivators' cultivation. Even ordinary people who ate it could strengthen their body and prevent all kinds of diseases. "Look, someone caught a fish on the boat over there, and it's a big fish the size of a palm." When the people on the other boat saw the fish that Feng Jiu caught, they couldn't help but exclaim. They said to the old man, "Quickly, quickly, row over there, row over there." Lang Shuang handed over the fish basket and put the fish in it. He saw his master studying the fish in the basket with great interest. "Tut, tut, this is a first-level spirit fish. It seems that this place is really a spirit land. I wonder how many spirit fish are there in the water?" She looked at the clear pond with bright eyes. Seeing that it was dark in the depths, she couldn't see clearly. She couldn't help but have an idea. Chapter 4187. Feng Jiu smiled and said, "This is a first-level spiritual fish is not only delicious." She stared at the pool. Her eyes moved slightly. No one knew what she was thinking. "Miss, are you selling the fish? If you sell it, I can buy it from you at high price." A middle-aged man sitting in a small boat asked in a loud voice, and also let the man in the boat row the boat over. "Sorry, I'm not selling it," Feng Jiu said, and said to the old man rowing the boat, "Row to a deeper place." "Inside? The fog is too heavy, it may not be safe." The old man said with some hesitation. "It doesn't matter, nothing will happen." Feng Jiu smiled. Seeing this, Wang Yu said to the old man, "Paddle over, we'll be fine." Hearing Wang Yu say so, the old man responded and rowed to the depths. As they went deeper, their figures gradually disappeared in the thick fog. How they go in? The deeper the green cloud jade pool is, the thicker the fog is, and the more dangerous it is. "Do they want to die?" A man in brocade said. Looking at Feng Jiu and the others who went in, his eyebrows wrinkled. "Let's go in too," Zhang San said, and let the man in the boat row in. "No, something will happen. We can't go in anymore. Go back. Let's go to the shore and wait." The man in brocade next to him stopped him and said to the man in the boat, "Row back to the shore. What can happen? They dare to go in. Why can't we go in?" Zhang San said with displeasure. "No means no. If something happens, we can't explain it. Yes, they are them, we are us, it is not the same. Anyway, we just want to see the beauty in red. Since she went into the depths, and the fog is so heavy, we can't see clearly. It is better to go to the shore and wait." Listening to the two people, Zhang San did not say more, and let the man row the boat back. The middle-aged man in the other boat watched Feng Jiu and the others go in, and was slightly surprised. The old man wearing a bamboo hat next to him looked up and thoughtfully looked at the small boat in the fog. "Follow him," the old man said. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was slightly startled, but he didn't say anything. He just let the small boat row over. Feng Jiu, who was inside, saw that the fog was thicker and he could barely see beyond 3 meters. So he said, "All right, let's stop here." As she spoke, she took out a low-grade pill from her space. With a pinch of her fingers, she crushed the pill and sprinkled it into the pond beside the small boat. Lang Shuang watched quietly and did not make a sound. Wang Yu was slightly surprised and asked, "Miss Feng, what are you doing?" "Fishing." She smirked and said, since this place is ownerless, it's a pity to leave these spiritual fish here and not catch them. Fishing? How do we catch them? He asked, slightly stunned. He also knew that these were spirit fish. It was not that no one wanted to come here to catch them, but even if they rowed a small boat to the depths of the pond, it would be difficult to catch them. These spirit fish hid in the depths of the pond and would not come out at all. Fengjiu chuckled. You'll know when you see it. Chapter 4188. When Wang Yu saw a large group of fish swimming up from the depths, she could not help but look at Fengjiu in a daze. She took something out of her sleeve and threw it into the pool. She only saw a silver light flashing in front of her eyes, and then it disappeared into the water. Collect! Fengjiu shouted softly. She pulled her hand and collected the net. At the same time, because of her strength, the small boat also shook violently. Fortunately, several people on the boat had cultivation, so they quickly stabilized. Be careful. Lung Shuang held the old man and waited for him to stand firm before letting him go. Thank you, Mississippi. Thank you. The old man breathed a sigh of relief. The boat shook violently, which really scared him. He knew that if he fell, he would die. At this time, Fengjiu's face overflowed with a pleasant smile. She bent over, holding the boat with one hand and holding the silver net with the other. She said to Wang Yu, who was still in a daze, "Give me a hand." "Oh, okay." Wang Yu came to her senses. When she saw that there were dozens of big fish in the silver net, she could not help but shake her mind. She hurried forward to help pull the silver net. "I'll help you row the boat back to the shore," Lung Shuang said, and stood on the old man's side. He tried to keep the boat from turning over to one side and helped the old man row the boat. The fish struggled against the net, trying their best to break free. However, no matter how hard they struggled, no matter how hard they tried to bite the silver net did not show any signs of damage. This scene was seen by the middle-aged man and the old man sitting on the boat not far away. Both of them looked surprised, and the astonishment in their eyes was obvious. The man who helped them row the boat saw this and could not help but say with envy, "They caught a big net of fish. How did they do it? These fish are hidden in the depths of the pool, and they caught so many. They really made a lot of money this time." Yi Fei and Jian Shu piled up branches in an open space on the shore. Du Fan had not returned from looking for game, so they sat on the grass and waited. When they saw the boat coming back, Yi Fei showed a happy smile. "My master is back." Jian Shu looked and saw his master bending over, holding a silver net in one hand. There were fish in it. Jian Shu could not help but widen his eyes. Aren't they fishing? How do they use the net? How do they catch so many? Yes, they can't eat all of them. Yi Fei frowned and said, "What's more, the fish die as soon as they leave the water. It's too wasteful." Jian Shu's mouth. Of. You can't catch it, but that doesn't mean my master can't catch it. As Fengjiu's boat approached the shore, the people on the shore surrounded them and stared at them. Hiss, how do they cast the net? How do they catch so many fish? Isn't it impossible to cast a net in this pool? Last time, someone cast a net, but the net was bitten through. Look, the scales of these fish are glowing with a green luster. There are almost no small fish. They're all big fish that weigh more than 10 caddies. Isn't that young master you? Chapter 4189. In the pavilion, because of the noise, the man in luxurious clothes and an elegant and beautiful woman looked at each other and walked to the shore. Because there were many people around, they didn't push forward. They just stood at the back and watched. Unexpectedly, they saw an acquaintance. When the man in luxurious clothes saw Wang Yu, he couldn't help glancing at the woman beside him and said with a smile, "Qiushua, look, I didn't expect to meet Wang Yu here." Qiushua glanced at the front, and her eyes fell on Wang Yu, who was bending over. Then she looked at Fengjiu, who was in red. When she saw her beautiful face, there was a ripple in her eyes, but her voice was flat with disdain and contempt. "Wang Yu is just a playboy. I guess he is here to accompany the beauty to play." The man in luxurious clothes looked at Fengjiu, who was in red, and saw her looking down at the fish in the water. A strand of hair fell on her cheek and was pushed to her ear by her hand. At that moment, her charm and smile dazzled his eyes and made him stunned. He had seen his fair share of beauties. Even Ruan Xiaoxue, the third miss of the Ruan clan, was a well-known beauty. However, compared to this red-clothed beauty, Ruan Xiaoxue was like a dim firefly, while the other woman was like the blazing sun, radiant and eye-catching, making her unforgettable on the other side. Feng Jiu got off the boat first and said to Wang Yu, "The spiritual fish can't be dragged up the cliff, or it will die soon. You have to stay on the boat and ask someone to go back to the mansion to get a big bucket." Hearing that, Wang Yu shouted to Jian Shu, "Jian Shu, go back to the mansion and get 2 big buckets." Okay. Jian Shu wanted to go forward, but when he heard his master's words, he quickly flew to the city on his sword. Fortunately, it was not far from the city. Especially if he flew on his sword, it would save more time. "Young master Yu, can you sell me one of the fish?" A practitioner came forward and asked. He looked at the spiritual fish weighing more than 10 kilograms with envy in his eyes. "Sorry, this fish is my friend's," Wang Yu said and looked at Feng Jiu. Hearing that, the practitioner looked at Feng Jiu and asked, "Miss, I wonder." "Sorry, I'm not selling this fish." Feng Jiu smiled faintly and stood on the shore. She thought that most of the spiritual fish were of the first level, and their scales should be used as medicine. Moreover, the first-level spiritual fish could only be found. Du Fan came forward with a hare and a pheasant. Looking at the net of fish, he couldn't help but laugh. "It seems like we have a great harvest. I've also hunted 2 wild animals. We won't be able to finish them today." He inwardly shook his head and smiled. This was indeed something that only his master would do. One must know that the silver net was not an ordinary net. Only his master would be willing to use such a treasure to catch fish. The man in luxurious clothes with Ruan Xiaoxue kept looking at Feng Jiu, as if he had forgotten that Ruan Xiaoxue was beside him. He stepped forward and bowed to Feng Jiu like an elegant gentleman. He smiled and introduced himself. "Miss, I'm Han Yuqing." After that, he stood up straight and looked at Feng Jiu with a smile, as if he thought that she would know who he was after he said his name. Chapter 4190. Han Yuqing was taken aback, and he could not maintain the smile on his face. He looked at the people around him, who were trying to stifle their laughter, and took a deep breath to soothe his disappointment. Then he smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if we didn't know each other before. From this moment on, we know each other." Feng Jiu pursed her lips and said, "I'm not interested in knowing you." Puffed. "Ha ha." Someone couldn't help but laugh. Looking at Han Yuqing's defeated face, they felt a sense of satisfaction. Ruan Xiaoxue, who was standing at the back, saw this scene, and her expression turned ugly. She looked at Han Yuqing, then at the beautiful woman in red, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Because she was standing at the back of the crowd, no one noticed when she moved her sleeve to reveal a silver needle between her fingers. She secretly channeled her spiritual energy and shot the needle at Feng Jiu. When the silver needle was shot, a smug look flashed in her eyes, and a smile appeared on her face. However, the next moment, the smile on her face froze. The woman in red, who had been standing there, had coincidentally shifted her body at that moment, and the silver needle had missed her acupuncture point and shot into the pond behind her. Was she too lucky? She had actually dodged it? Anger appeared on her face, and her gaze was fixed on Feng Jiu. Therefore, she did not see the cold light that flashed in Du Fan and Long Shuang's eyes. Feng Jiu's gaze seemed to inadvertently sweep over the woman, and the corners of her lips curled into a faint smile. She looked away and looked at Du Fan. "Say, the weather is good now. You catch one tail and deal with it first. We'll make fish soup." "Okay," Du Fan replied. He called Yi Fei Fei and walked towards a small boat. "Everyone, you can leave now. I don't intend to sell this fish." Feng Jiu glanced at the crowd as she spoke, and then walked with Long Shuang to the place where the branches were placed. Hearing her words, the crowd felt that it was normal. After all, if they were in her shoes, they would not be willing to sell it either. This kind of spiritual fish was not something that could be bought easily, so they would naturally keep it for themselves. However, seeing Feng Jiu turn to leave, Ruan Qiushue was still unwilling to stop. Seeing that Feng Jiu's back was facing her, the silver needle in her hand once again aimed at Feng Jiu's acupuncture point. The silver needle was aimed at Feng Jiu's acupuncture point at the back of Feng Jiu's neck. If the result, it would cause paralysis. It's obvious how vicious the woman was. If it was an ordinary person, the force of a silver needle would be extremely small, and the person's back was facing her, so it would probably be very difficult for that person to avoid it. However, the person she was facing was Feng Jiu, an expert who possessed great strength, so it was naturally impossible for her to not notice that this silver needle was flying towards her. Lung Shuang stopped when she noticed the air blade coming at her master from behind. At the same time, Feng Nine turned around and caught the silver needle that was coming at her. She turned her hand and shot it back at Lung Shuang. Xiao! A silver needle as thin as a hair shot out from Feng Jiu's hand and pierced the acupuncture point on Ruan Qiushue's right hand. Almost at the same time, Ruan Qiushue cried out in pain. Qiushue! Han Yuqing hurriedly supported her and looked at Feng Jiu. Chapter 4191. Her voice was calm, but there was a sense of power in it. After she finished speaking, she did not care about the angry look on her face, nor did she care about who she was. She then turned around and continued to walk forward. Han Yuqing supported Ruan Qiushue and frowned. Qiushue, she hasn't offended you. Why did you attack her? He had been shocked when he had seen the silver needle aimed at the acupuncture point on her neck. However, he had not expected her to be able to catch it. Furthermore, what did she mean by once but not twice? Could it be that Qiushue had attacked her before? Ruan Qiushue clenched her trembling right hand and gritted her teeth. Her expression was cold as she spat. I don't like her. She doesn't like her. Because of her appearance, Han Yuqing's gaze had been fixed on her. When she saw the infatuation and amazement in his eyes, she was jealous. What right does a woman who had appeared out of nowhere have to be prettier than me? What right does she have to steal the spotlight and attention that should have belonged to me? Ruan Qiushue was one of the top beauties in Azure Demon City. Not only was her appearance outstanding, her family background was illustrious, and her own cultivation was not to be underestimated. No matter where she went, she was the subject of envy. However, this woman's appearance had stolen the spotlight that should have belonged to her. So what if she wanted to teach her a lesson? She was the daughter of an aristocratic family, so why couldn't she teach a foreign woman a lesson? However, the damnable thing was that this woman had dared to hurt her. Not too far away, the middle-aged man stood by the side with the old man and watched. When he saw this, the old man shook his head to himself. He only cast a glance at Ruan Qiushue's trembling hand before moving his gaze away. His gaze landed on the woman in red who was slowly walking away. His curiosity grew. Who on earth was this woman? When Ruan Qiushue had secretly attacked the woman in red, he had also seen it. However, he had not warned her because he had sensed that the woman in red was very powerful. The man with the fan and the woman in black next to her were also very powerful. When Ruan Qiushue was secretly making a move, not only did he discover it, the others had also discovered it. However, they had chosen to ignore it. However, they had not expected that Ruan Qiushue would actually make a move against the red-clothed woman. Seeing the woman in red sitting down not far away and preparing to cook, the old man stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Get someone to catch some game and bring it back. Let's barbecue here as well." Hearing this, the middle-aged man was stunned for a moment, but he didn't say anything. He just responded and made a gesture. Not long after, two cultivators in tight clothes came in front of him. He whispered a few words and saw that the old man had already walked over to the woman in red and sat down not far from them. After giving some instructions, he also followed. Han Yuqing saw that Ruan Qiushue's hand was shaking nonstop, so he said, "Qiushue, I'll send you back first. Get a doctor to take a look at your hand." When Ruan Qiushue heard this, she could not help biting her lips. She had been bullied, but Han Yuqing had not said a word. He had even protected that woman. After all, their Han and Ruan clans were discussing their marriage, but he had just watched as she was bullied. Knowing that she was no match for them, Ruan Xiaoxue did not plan to stay for long. She said nothing and turned to leave. She might not be able to deal with them, but what about her family? Chapter 4192. Wang Yu, who was on the boat, looked at the scene and shook her head secretly without saying anything. Ruan Xiaoxue was too self-righteous to attack Fengjiu. Soon after, Jian Shu came back with a guard, a carriage, and 2 large wooden buckets. They carried the 2 large wooden buckets in the carriage to the pool below. "Master, the buckets are here," Jian Shu shouted while filling the buckets with some pool water. "Then come and help." Wang had been holding the silver net on the boat and stabilizing the boat so that it would not be overturned by the struggling fish. At this time, seeing them come, she quickly asked them to come and help. "Be careful. Most of these fish are at the same level. If you are bitten, you may lose an arm. Moreover, they struggle very hard." Du Fan reminded them. Seeing their expressions, he shook his head and said with a smile, "Forget it. Let me do it." Yi Feifei looked at them with a smile. She took the fish that Du Fan had already prepared and said, "Brother Du, I will take this fish to make soup first. Go ahead." Du Fan gestured and handed her the blue fish scales. "You take these first. Go back and dry them in the sun before giving them to Master." "Okay, I know," Yi Feifei said. She took them and walked to Fengjiu. "Come to the shore. Don't let the fish slip away." Du Fan gestured and asked them to come to the shore. So, Wang Yu and the other 2 people held the silver net and opened the mouth. They saw Du Fan reach down and quickly grab a spiritual fish weighing more than 10 kilograms and put it into the big wooden bucket. The people who had originally dispersed saw him catching fish and walked closer to take a look. Their faces were filled with envy. "Hey, why are these 2 fish not the same?" Wang Yu said and looked at one of the fish that Du Fan caught. It was only the size of a palm and weighed at most 1 or 2 kilograms. However, the fish scales on the fish sometimes glowed blue and sometimes glowed blue. Du Fan glanced at it and saw that the last fish in the net was also the same. He put the 2 fish into the bucket and said, "These 2 are 2nd-level spiritual fish." Then he gestured, "Carry this to the side first." So, several people worked together to carry the 2 big wooden buckets to a cool place on the side, and 1 person stood there to guard. "Master, there are 19 fish in total, 2 of which are only the size of a palm. They are 2nd-level spiritual fish." Du Fan came to her side and sat down. "Oh, there are 2nd-level spiritual fish?" Feng Jiu was slightly surprised. He didn't expect this, so he got up and walked to the wooden barrel to take a look. Sure enough, he saw 2 palm-sized fish inside. The aura of the light on their bodies was different. The fish's scales were green and glowed blue. They were very beautiful. Here, they were leisurely enjoying this moment. On the other side, Ruan Xiaoxue returned to the mansion. Her trembling hands made her feel a little scared. Thinking of the woman in red who said that one of her hands was destroyed, she could not help but worry. Therefore, when she arrived at the mansion and heard that her father and the master of the Han family were in the hall, she went straight to the hall. "Father, woo-wooed," as she cried into the hall, rushed into her father's arms, and cried with grievance. Unexpectedly, he saw his favorite daughter crying with grievance in front of the Han family. The master of the Ruan family was stunned and asked, "What's wrong? Didn't you go out to play with Yuqing? Why did you come back crying?" Chapter 4193. Han Yuqing, who was following behind, quickly followed them in. Seeing that his father was also in the hall, he bowed to them. "Father, Uncle Ruan." As he spoke, he couldn't help but look at Ruan Xiaoxue. "Yuqing, what's going on?" Father Han asked in a deep voice. Han Yuqing was a little hesitant. He didn't know how to explain it. "Father, my hand hurts. My hand was injured by someone. It hurts so much." Ruan Xiaoxue's face was covered in tears. At this moment, she no longer had the high and mighty attitude of a daughter from a noble family. Instead, she was complaining to her father like a little girl. Hearing this, the Ruan family head looked down and saw that her hand was trembling. He immediately shouted, "Men, quickly get the doctor here." "Nephew Yuqing, you went out with Xiaoxue. How'd her hand get injured like this? Who hurt her?" The Ruan family head asked in a deep voice. It was obvious that he was suppressing his anger. It was a young lady. As Han Yuqing spoke, he added, "But it's not what you think." Qiushue plotted against the other party first, and that young lady then attacked. Hearing this, the Ruan family head looked displeased. In a lecturing tone, he said, "Nephew Yuqing, our two families are discussing your marriage. Not to mention whether this marriage will succeed or not. You went out with Qiushue today. She was bullied to this extent. It's fine if you can't stand up for her, but how can you speak up for the other party? What do you think of Qiushue by doing this?" He moved his lips, but didn't know what to say. He couldn't help but look at his father. When the Han family head heard his son's words, he thought to himself, so she was the one who attacked first. However, plotting against others isn't something to be proud of. Moreover, it's hard to talk about it. Thus, he didn't say anything else and just scolded his son. "Yuqing, this is your fault. Let's not talk about the fact that we are discussing your marriage. As a man, you shouldn't have allowed Qiushue, a girl, to be hurt like this. Your Uncle Ruan is right. You shouldn't have done that." As he spoke, he chuckled and said to Ruan Qiushue, "Qiushue, don't cry, don't cry. Uncle will teach him a lesson when we get back. Right now, the most important thing is to let the doctor take a look at your hand." Patriarch, an old man carrying a medicine box, walked in. He was the residence's physician and also a pharmacist. When he heard that the third young Mrs. Hand was injured and the patriarch asked him to come over, he put down what he was doing and rushed over. "It's good that you're here. Quickly take a look at Qiushue's hand. She has been trembling ever since she entered the hall." Master Ruan said, indicating for him to come forward. "Yes." The old man stepped forward and asked Ruan Qiushue to sit at the side. Then he took her pulse. After checking her pulse, he couldn't help but frown. "How is it?" Ruan family head asked worriedly. Ruan Qiushue bit her lip and looked at the old man. She was a little nervous. "Third young miss, is your hand injured?" The old man asked. "No, it's just that a silver needle pricked me here. I pulled it out when I came back." Ruan Qiushue pointed at the place where the needle pricked her arm. Chapter 4194. Hearing this, the Ruan family head's face darkened. "What do you mean by powerless?" The old man sighed. "It means that I can't cure it. Not only can I not cure it, even if we find someone else, they probably won't be able to cure it either. This hand can only be treated by the person who did it. Since that person knows the acupuncture points, they should be able to treat this kind of injury. Otherwise, third Miss Hand can only be crippled, not to mention being unable to pick up a sword. Even holding a pair of chopsticks will be difficult." Hearing this, Ruan Qiushue panicked. "Father, quickly send someone to capture that woman." Saying this, he added, "She's currently at the Green Cloud Jade Pool. She used a silver net artifact to catch quite a few spiritual fish, each one weighing more than 10 kilograms. The Han family head's expression changed. "Spiritual fish from the Green Cloud Jade Pool? That's impossible, right?" The fish caught there were only 2 fingers wide. He had never heard of a big fish weighing more than 10 kilograms. Moreover, even if there were, the pool was so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. It was impossible to catch a big fish in the pool. He couldn't help but look at his son, asking with his eyes. Seeing him nod slightly, he couldn't help but feel a little surprised. This was really strange. "Guards!" The Ruan family head shouted. "Patriarch!" Several guards hurried in and bowed respectfully. "Father, that woman is very strong. I'm afraid that the guards in the residence are no match for her." Ruan Qiushue hurriedly said. Hearing this, he frowned and pondered. "If that's the case, then I'll personally make a trip. Nephew Han, you've seen that woman before. How about you lead the way for us?" As he spoke, his sharp gaze looked at Han Yuqing. He hesitated, not because he was afraid of Fengjiu and the other's strength, but because he felt pity for such a beautiful woman. He knew that if she fell into the hands of the Ruan family, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing him like this, Ruan Qiushue was annoyed and said, "Father, there's no need for him to lead the way. I'll take you. Your head is still injured. Don't go back and forth." The Ruan family head disapproved. Hearing this, she thought for a moment, then gritted her teeth and said, "That woman was dressed in red, and she was followed by a woman in black and a man holding a fan. They were all very good-looking and could be recognized at a glance. Wang Yu of the Wang family was also with her." "All right, father understands. You just wait at home. Wait for father to bring her back and treat your hand. Then I'll deal with her properly." Ruan family head glanced at Han Yuqing as he spoke. He flicked his sleeves and walked out with a cold snort. "Hey, brother Ruan," the Han family head shouted as he watched Han Yuqing stride away. He couldn't help but sigh and shake his head as he scolded Han Yuqing. "You've really disappointed me. Come back with me. I'll definitely teach you a lesson." As he spoke, he smiled at Ruan Qiushue and said, "Qiushue, have a good rest. We'll be leaving first." As soon as he finished speaking, he led his men away. Seeing this, Han Yuqing wanted to say a few words to Ruan Qiushue, but seeing her turn her back on him with a face full of anger, he didn't say anything and left with his father. After leaving the Ruan residence, the Han family head sat in the carriage and said to a middle-aged man accompanying him, "You follow behind and see what's going on." "Yes," the middle-aged man replied and left alone. Chapter 4195. On one side, the Han father and son were talking about what happened at Qingyunbai Pond. On the other side, Master Wan led a team and rushed to Qingyunbai Pond. At the same time, the Wang family also got the news and knew what happened at Qingyunbai Pond. Master Wang was surprised and immediately went to find Master Wang and told him about it. "Father, do we need to send someone to check it out?" The Wan family sent a large group of people there. "If they fight, I'm afraid you will be at a disadvantage," Master Wan said with some worry. After they left the mansion, he told his father about the elixir given by Fengjiu. However, according to his father, she was a very noble person, but he didn't tell him her identity. At this time, they had an accident outside, so he couldn't help but worry. After all, she also gave them such a precious elixir. If something happened, the Wang family couldn't help but protect her. Unexpectedly, his father chuckled and stroked his beard. "No need. Just pretend you don't know. Don't worry about them." The Ruan family has become more and more arrogant these years. Since he wants to seek his own death, we have no reason to stop him. Hearing this, Master Wang was surprised. "Father, aren't you worried about Miss Feng? And you are worried about what?" "Not to mention the little boy of the Ruan family. Even if the old man of the Ruan family comes out, he can't do anything to them. Don't worry. They will be fine." He waved his hand and was not worried at all. On the other side of Qingyunbai Pond, Fengjiu and others were drinking fish soup. A bowl of delicious fish soup exuded a rich spiritual aura and fresh taste, but there was no fishy smell at all. When the fish soup entered their stomachs, the spiritual aura in their bodies surged. They felt refreshed, as if all the pores on their bodies were open to breathe the air. It was extremely comfortable. The people around looked and couldn't help but swallow, but they could only watch, smell the fresh smell in the air, and imagine the delicious taste. When the pot of fish soup was finished, the few of them began to eat the roasted meat. After eating and drinking to their fill, they were about to go to the pavilion to play a few games of chess when they saw a large group of people coming toward them aggressively. "It's the master of the Ruan family." Wang Yu looked at those people and frowned slightly. She didn't expect that Ruan Qiushue would encourage her father to cause trouble. That group of people quickly stepped forward and surrounded them, causing the surrounding people to whisper to each other. The master of the Ruan family came forward from behind. After glancing at Wang Yu, his eyes fell on Feng Nine, who was dressed in red. He looked her up and down and scrupulously, and then he let out a harsh shout. "What a vicious woman! How dare you break my daughter's hand?" From a moment Feng Nine let the woman go, she knew that if the woman wanted revenge, she would definitely come here. Therefore, she did not go back to the mansion after putting the spiritual fish in a bucket. Instead, she had a picnic here and waited for the trouble to be solved. If the other party was tactful, perhaps this matter would be over. If the other party wanted to take revenge, then it would be better for them to settle it here, so as to avoid implicating the Wang clan. It was obvious that the other party had delivered themselves to her doorstep. Moreover, the moment they opened their mouths, they were making false accusations. Since that was the case, she didn't mind playing along with them. Master Juan, it's not like that. It was Third Miss Juan who attacked my friend first. Juan, you came forward to explain. Chapter 4196. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and asked, "Is this the cultivation of the aristocratic families? Or is it because you're one of the 8 aristocratic families in Azure Demon City, so you could be so unreasonable?" Master Juan narrowed his eyes, glanced at Wang Yu, and sneered in a deep voice. "Do you think the Wang family can protect you? The Wang family can't protect me?" Fengjiu raised her eyebrows. "As far as I know, the Wang family is also one of the 8 aristocratic families in this city." The Wang family head raised his head and laughed loudly. His tone was arrogant as he said, "The Wang family is competing day and night. Even if they want to protect you, they can't do it." "Really? Then believe it or not, I can remove your Wang family from the list of the 8 aristocratic families in Azure Demon City in one day." Fengjiu casually played with her fingers. Her voice was faint and casual. However, her words shocked everyone around her. Even the Ruan family head was no exception. The Ruan clan head stared at the lady in red in front of him. He saw that her expression was indifferent, without the slightest bit of fear. Her actions were even more graceful and calm. The words that came out of her mouth were as natural and casual as if she was talking about the weather today. This caused his heart to skip a beat, and he began to guess her identity. This woman was obviously a foreigner. Even if he didn't know her origin, he guessed that she was just a daughter of an aristocratic family. He was not afraid of any aristocratic family. What was more, Azure Demon City was also a big city. As one of the 8 aristocratic families in this city, how could the Ruan family not have a background? At that moment, he sneered, "How arrogant you are! Today, no matter who you are, I will catch you and take you back to the mansion. If you cure my daughter's hand, I may spare your life. Otherwise, I will make you wish you were dead. Guards, catch her!" He shouted in a deep voice and raised his hand to ask the guards to come forward. "Who dares?" Wang Yu shouted and stepped forward. "Arrest Wang Yu as well." The master of the Ruan family shouted angrily. "Yes." The guard beside him immediately responded and stepped forward to seize them. At this moment, Jian Shu pulled out his sword and stood beside his young master. Lung Shuang, on the other hand, had already walked to the wooden barrel guarded by the guard of the Wang family. She watched this scene coldly. Fengjiu looked at Master Wan with a faint smile. He was neither surprised nor angry, as if he was a bystander. Looking at this scene, he said to Du Fan beside him, "Destroy his cultivation." "All right," Du Fan replied. His figure shot out like a bolt of lightning towards the Ruan clan head. The Ruan family head hadn't even recovered from Fengjiu's words about the person who had crippled his cultivation when he saw the man holding the fan come to his side. He grabbed his hand and kicked him, causing him to kneel down. A powerful pressure shrouded him, and at that moment, he couldn't move at all. An aura of death shrouded him. The feeling of being at the mercy of others made him panic and fear. The arrogance between his eyebrows finally disappeared, and what replaced it was horror and fear. No. He only had time to let out a trembling cry. Then he felt that all his cultivation was gone from his body. As his cultivation of spiritual power was destroyed, his whole face changed rapidly. Chapter 4197. Family Head. The guards exclaimed and quickly slashed at Du Fan with their swords. However, they were brushed away by the fan in his hand. One by one, they retreated several meters away, spilling blood from their mouths. The old man and the middle-aged man looked at this scene and could not help but gasp. They looked at Du Fan and Fengjiu. The family head of one of the 8 great families was crippled by them, just like that. It seemed that the Azure Demon City was going to change. Du Fan threw him away. Seeing him fall to the ground, the guards quickly went forward to help him up and shouted, "Get out!" The guards supported their family head and retreated step by step. They did not dare to follow them. Even their family head strength was crippled. Even if they attacked together, they were no match for those people. Now, it was better to send their family head back to the mansion. The members of the Han clan, who were watching from behind, saw that the Ruan clan head's cultivation had been crippled. Their hearts were in turmoil, and they could not help but quickly leave to report to their master. At this time, the old man and the middle-aged man came forward. Looking at Fengjiu, the old man sighed and said, "Miss, you crippled the family head of one of the 8 great families. They will not let you go. You'd better run for your life." Fengjiu smiled and said carelessly, "Since I dared to cripple his cultivation, I am not afraid of his family's revenge." Then he said to Wang Yu, "Let's go. Let people take the 2 buckets of fish." Okay. Wang Yu recovered with great difficulty. Her whole heart was in turmoil. The family head of the Ruan family was crippled. This was good news for the Wang family. However, the Ruan family would not give up. She did not know what would happen when things developed. The news spread like the wind. Before Fengjiu and the others returned to the Azure Demon City, the whole Azure Demon City knew that the family head of the Ruan family was crippled. At the same time, the family head of the Ruan family, who was sent back to the Ruan family, had fainted. Because of this, the Ruan family fell into great panic and uneasiness. "Father." Ruan Xiuxua ran to the front yard and saw that the physicians and uncles of the clan were all gathered there. She squeezed her way forward to take a look and almost fainted. This is impossible. This is impossible. A heavy slap landed on Ruan Xiuxua's face, and her whole body was thrown to the ground. "You scourge. It's all your fault. You're the one who caused Patriarch's cultivation to be crippled." Scourge. After a clan elder found out the reason and saw Ruan Xiuxua running over, he immediately slapped her and sent her flying. Ruan Xiuxua cried out in pain as blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. Her entire face quickly became red and swollen. Her eyes were filled with anger as she glared at the elder and shouted, "It wasn't me. It's not me. It was that woman. It was that woman who caused my father to be like this." The elder was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He immediately shouted, "Men, lock her up. Lock him up. She will be punished according to the family law." Soon, Ruan Xiuxua was taken away. At this time, the surrounding clan elders looked at each other. They looked at the angry elder and asked, "Great elder, what should we do now? The family head has been crippled. We must immediately ask the great elder to come out of seclusion." Chapter 4198. While the Ruan clan was in chaos, the various powers in the city were watching from the sidelines. In the Wang clan, Fengjiu scooped up the 2 second-level spiritual fish and placed them in the spiritual spring in her space. The rest were given to the Wang clan. The Wang clan's old master came to Fengjiu's courtyard. Seeing her lying on the soft couch, he walked in. "Miss Feng." "HM." Fengjiu opened her eyes and sat up. Looking at the Wang clan's old master, she gestured, "Sit." After sitting down, the Wang clan's old master smiled. "I'm here to thank Miss Feng for the spiritual fish. They're all good stuff. It's all thanks to Miss Feng that we were able to obtain these spiritual fish." Fengjiu smiled. "They're all first-level spiritual fish. It's also because the Emerald Cloud Pond is a good place. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to raise such spiritual fish. I'm the one who's causing trouble for the Wang clan." Miss Feng, what are you saying?" He smiled and waved his hand. "That trouble isn't trouble. Moreover, the Ruan clan's kid's cultivation was crippled today. The Ruan clan might not stand up for him. Based on my understanding of the Ruan clan's old man, if he comes out of seclusion and finds out what happened, he'll probably come to apologize. From what you're saying, you're very familiar with the Ruan clan's old ancestor." Fengjiu asked in surprise. The Wang clan's old master stroked his beard and laughed. He, of course we're familiar. Otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed to you Er's father becoming in-laws with the Ruan clan. It's just that I didn't expect the Ruan clan to get worse with each generation. Well, in these 10 years, the Ruan clan status and power are considered outstanding among the 8 great clans. It's no wonder that the youngsters are so complacent. The 2 of them chatted in the courtyard. At the Ruan residence, old Master Ruan, who had been in seclusion for a long time, was invited to come out. After Old Master Ruan asked about the ins and outs of the situation, his face sank. So you're saying that while I was in seclusion, not only did I reject the marriage with the Wang clan, I even caused such a thing? His voice was old, but there was a hint of inner strength in it. He was full of energy, and his complexion was very good. However, at this time, his whole body was emitting an imposing aura that made everyone in the hall not dare to breathe. It's like this. The head of the Wang family came to discuss the marriage of his son, Wang Yu, but Xiuxue looked down on Wang Yu and said that he was a playboy, so the marriage was called off. A middle-aged man said with a trembling voice. Under the pressure of his aura, he could only feel cold sweat seeping out of his forehead. So you want to discuss the marriage with the Han family? Old Master Ruan said in a low voice. No, this matter hasn't been settled yet. The middle-aged man hurriedly said. Humph. Madame Ruan snorted heavily and said, Bring Ruan Xiuxue here. Not long after, the locked-up Ruan Xiuxue was brought to the hall. At this time, half of her face was swollen, and one of her hands was hanging down and trembling. She looked very embarrassed. Xiuxue greets grandfather. She didn't even dare to breathe loudly and kowtowed in a regular manner. Chapter 4199. Hearing this, Ruan Xiuxue, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly raised her head in disbelief. Grandfather, no. You can't do this. I'm your biological granddaughter. Can't do this? Do you want me to keep a scourge like you who doesn't know the severity of the situation and only knows how to cause trouble for the family? Biological granddaughter? I have so many granddaughters. I don't need one more like you. He snorted coldly and glanced at her with disgust. Do you think that's all? Let me tell you, because of your stupidity, your father's cultivation was destroyed, and he became an ordinary person without cultivation. From today onwards, you will be responsible for taking care of his daily life in a manner. You can't rely on others. Hearing this, Ruan Xiuxue collapsed onto the ground, her face full of despair. No, I don't want to go to the manor. I don't want to go to the manor. I'm the third young miss of the Ruan family. I'm the third young miss of the legal wife. I don't want to go to the manor. I don't want to go. As she spoke, she suddenly stood up and ran outside. Lock her up. Send her father to the manor tomorrow as well. Old Master Ruan ordered coldly. Thus, Ruan Xiuxue was taken away. From afar, one could still hear her hysterical screams. When everyone in the hall saw this scene, none of them dared to breathe loudly. The patriarch's thunderous methods were not something that had happened in a day or two. It was just that he had not done anything for a long time, so everyone had forgotten about it. Now, the patriarch had been crippled. As soon as he came out of seclusion, he did not deal with the person who had crippled the patriarch's cultivation. Instead, he dealt with these messy matters in the family first. It was really frightening to see this. They were afraid that the next one to be dealt with would be them. How the people we sent out to investigate returned? Old Master Ruan asked in a low voice, looking at the people in the hall. Not yet. As First Elder spoke, he looked at Old Master Ruan, who was sitting at the head of the table, and said, Those people are from outside, but they are currently living in the Wang family. We don't know much about them, so I think the people we sent out to investigate won't be able to find anything useful. Hearing this, Old Master Ruan thought for a while, then ordered, Personally go to the wine cellar and get 2 jugs of good wine. Also, bring the Eastern Sea luminous pearl from the storeroom and come with me to the Wang family. Okay, the Great Elder responded and immediately turned to leave. Seeing that the Great Elder had left, everyone in the hall looked at each other and hesitated. Someone mustered up the courage to ask, Ancestor, are you going to apologize to them? Wouldn't that be too? Before he could finish his sentence, he saw the patriarch's cold gaze sweep over him, and he immediately shut his mouth. The atmosphere in the hall froze at this moment. No one dared to speak again. They just stood there with their heads lowered. After a long while, the old master on the main seat snorted heavily. He stood up with his hands behind his back and walked toward the center of the hall. He said, You are all old people, yet you can't even see through such a small matter. I really don't know to what extent this family will fall if I'm not here in the future. With your short-sightedness, who knows when you'll bring a calamity to your family." Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They couldn't help but look at each other and say, how can this be? How could that be? Huh, you guys, all of you better reflect on yourselves. As he spoke, he flicked his sleeves and walked out. Chapter 4200. In the Wong family, after the gatekeeper reported, the housekeeper reported. When the master of the Wong family heard the news, he called Wang Yu to tell his grandfather and Fengjiu, asking them to decide whether to see him or not. Wang Yu came to the plum garden where Fengjiu was. Seeing his grandfather and Fengjiu playing chess in the yard, he went forward and bowed to them. Then he said, "Grandfather, Miss Feng, the old master of the Yuan family is here. He's waiting outside the gate. Do you want to see him?" Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and looked at the old master of the Wang family. "You guessed right. Ha ha. When the old master of the Yuan family finds out, he can't sit still." He laughed and was not surprised. "Let him in," Fengjiu said as she raised her hand and put down a chess piece. Outside the gate, the carriage stopped aside. The old master of the Yuan family and the first elder stood aside and waited. After all, they came to apologize. It was not good to sit in the carriage and wait for people to come out. Only in this way could they show their sincerity. "Old master, first elder, please come in." When the gate opened, Wang Yu smiled and gestured to them. Looking at Wang Yu, the old master of the Yuan family looked at him and said, "You're Yu, right?" "Yes, I'm Wang Yu." He nodded and answered, "Ha ha. Speaking of which, I haven't seen you for many years. I didn't expect you to look so good. Your grandfather is so lucky. He has such a grandson," he said with emotion as he followed him inside, feeling pity in his heart. How could no one in the Yuan family like such an excellent child? They were really blind. Wang Yu smiled and did not say anything. He took him to the plum garden. Before he could say anything to his grandfather, the old master of the Yuan family walked up with a smile. "Ha ha. Old master of the Wang family, see what I brought you?" He took out 2 jars of wine from the space and carried them forward. He came to their table naturally and put the wine aside. Seeing the 2 jars of wine, the Wang clan's ancestors' eyes lit up. He quickly grabbed one of the jars and sniffed it. "Isn't this the precious spirit wine you've stored? You're actually willing to take it out? Ha, we haven't seen each other for many years. Naturally, I can't come empty-handed to meet an old friend." He smiled, then looked at Fengjiu and said, "This must be Miss Feng. This old man came today to see my old friend and also to apologize for my unfilial grandson. This is a greeting gift for Miss Feng. Please accept it." As he spoke, he gestured for the first elder to step forward and present the gift. This is the luminous pearl of the Eastern Sea, a treasure of the residence. The great elder took out a large box from the space. After opening the lid, a bead the size of a ball appeared in front of Fengjiu, exuding a charming luster. Because it was daytime, the light emitted by the luminous pearl was not obvious. However, such a large luminous pearl was indeed a treasure. Seeing that she didn't accept it and just looked at it, the old master of the Yuan family said, "I've already ordered that father and daughter be sent to the farm tomorrow. In the future, they are not allowed to take half a step into the residence." Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at him, then said to Lung Shuang, "Accept it." Chapter 4201. You asked the kitchen to prepare some dishes to go with the wine. Grandfather Wang ordered. "Okay." Wang Yu responded and turned to walk out. "I won't drink with you. You can drink. The manor is in a mess now. I have to go back and watch them tidy up." Grandfather Wan said and cupped his hands. "Gentlemen, I'll go back first. I'll find a chance to have a drink with you later." Seeing this, old Master Wang said, "All right, then I'll see you out." Then he stood up and said goodbye to Fengjiu. Then he walked him out. After they left, only Fengjiu and Lung Shuang were left in the courtyard. Du Fan, who was resting in his room, came out and looked outside. He asked, "Master, will the Yuan family still make a move?" Feng Jiu played with the chess piece in his hand and smiled. Forget it. As long as they don't look for trouble, there's no need to do anything to them. One should be lenient where possible. There was no need to force an entire family into a dead end. Seeing this, Du Fan nodded, bowed, and returned to his room. On the other side, Old Master Wang glanced at Old Master Wang beside him and asked, Old Man Wang, where did you get to know such a person? This girl is not ordinary. How did she come to live in your manor? Also, who is she? Ha ha. Grandfather Wang stroked his beard and smiled. You don't need to know who she is. You just need to know that you did the right thing today. As soon as he finished speaking, he continued, Your son and your granddaughter are really too much. Originally, I wanted to be in-laws with you, but there's no hope for that. He smiled. My Ruan family has more than one granddaughter. I think your grandson is really good. How about this? I'll let your grandson choose from all my granddaughters. He'll take whichever one he likes. How about that? Do you think you're picking vegetables? You're picking randomly? Now you think my grandson is good? Unfortunately, there's no more chance. The old master of the Wang clan laughed and said, It's my birthday in 2 days. You should come over to drink and have some fun. All right, then I'll come back in 2 days. I'll bring you a big gift then. As he spoke, he patted his shoulder and said, Thank you for today. Why are you thanking me? I didn't do anything. Old Master Wang smiled. I know. In any case, just thank you. Let's go, you can go back. He waved his hand, walked out of the gate, got into the carriage, and left. Watching him leave, Old Master Wang then walked back to his room. There were only 1 or 2 smart people in the Ruan family. If the Ruan family didn't have this old man, they would probably be in trouble. After returning to the plum garden, she finished playing chess with Feng Jiu, and the dishes were served. The old master of the Wang clan poured a cup of wine for Feng Jiu and said, His wine is really good. Try it. If you like it, I'll give you this jar. Feng Jiu chuckled and said, He specially gave it to you. You're still willing to give me a jar? Ah, it's just a jar of wine. It's not a big deal. The old master of the Wang clan laughed and drank the wine. 2 days later, the various forces in Azure Demon City were secretly puzzled. They thought that there would be some conflict between the Ruan and Wang clans. Who knew that nothing would happen in the end? Instead, they heard that the master of the Ruan clan and Ruan Xiuxue were secretly sent to a village in the countryside. Chapter 4202. The people of the various forces in Azure Demon City were all shrewd people. They would know what was going on in the city at the slightest sign of trouble. Today, regardless of whether they were old friends who had sent invitations or not, they all used Old Master Wang's birthday to pay a visit. They also wanted to find out more about the background of the lady in red. Elder Wang had already guessed what these people were thinking. Hence, although today's birthday was a grand celebration, they had sent out invitations. Those without invitations could not enter even if they came to the entrance of the Wang residence. My apologies. Our patriarch has ordered that today is the patriarch's birthday banquet. Guests entering the manor must have an invitation card in hand. The steward stood at the entrance and apologetically said to the 2 cultivators holding the birthday gifts. Hearing that, the 2 of them looked at each other and said, If that's the case, please accept these gifts. As they spoke, they handed the gifts over. However, the housekeeper said, We appreciate your kindness. However, the family head has ordered that we cannot accept gift from those who are not invited. Hence, I heard that the Wang family only sent out 99 invitations. Those who can come are all people who have some relations with us. An old man walked up with a smile and handed over an exquisite invitation. He said, I heard that only 2 people can be brought in. Hence, I brought my 2 grandsons to wish Elder Wang a happy birthday. So it's elderly. Please come in. The housekeeper took the invitation and looked at it. He smiled and invited them in. Seeing this, the surrounding people also knew that they could not enter without an invitation. Hence, they all left. Inside the Wang residence, everyone gathered together. Looking at the people sitting in the front yard, they were slightly surprised. Among these people, almost all of the major forces in the city had come. Other than the old master of the Ruan clan and the old ancestor of the Han clan, the other clan heads and old ancestors of the other clans had come. One had to know that, generally speaking, when the patriarch was in charge, the patriarchs didn't care much about the clan's affairs. However, when they saw the patriarchs of the various clans sitting together today, they all knew in their hearts why they were here. Usually, they would not see any of these people. However, there were quite a few of them here today. On the surface, they were here to celebrate Elder Wang's birthday. However, in reality, they wanted to investigate the background of the mysterious lady in red. However, after looking around a few times, they still couldn't find the woman in red. At this moment, Feng Jiu was leisurely lying on the soft couch, taking a nap. Normally, the banquet would be held outside. However, since the Wang clan wanted to hold a grand banquet, they had been entertaining the guests since early in the morning. At the same time, they also wanted to let these people who usually couldn't get together to have a good chat. Thus, even though the front was bustling with activity, she was quiet and elegant in the plum blossom courtyard. It didn't affect anything happening in front of her at all. "Master, what kind of gift should we give to old Master Wang for his birthday?" Du Fan asked as he poured himself a cup of tea. Feng Jiu narrowed his eyes, but did not open them. He said leisurely, "What else can I give other than pills? I don't have anything else here, just a lot of pills." Hearing this, Du Fan thought for a moment and asked, "What kind of pills should I give? I still have Master's gift in my space." Chapter 4203. Du Fan was stunned for a moment. He glanced at the pill and said in surprise, "This is a pill for healing internal injuries." "Yes, I'll give you this one. Compared to other pills, this one is really useful." Feng Jiu smiled, put it in a medicine bottle, and threw it to him. "Find a gift box and put it in it." "I know." Du Fan responded and put it away first. When the sky gradually darkened, Feng Jiu, led by Wang Yu, took Du Fan and the others to the banquet in front. Almost as soon as she appeared, everyone's eyes fell on her, as well as Du Fan and Lung Shuang who followed her. "Ha ha! Miss Feng is here. Please take a seat." Old Master Wang smiled and came forward to greet her. Seeing this, everyone's expressions were even more different. "A little gift for your birthday." Feng Jiu smiled. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Fan came forward and presented a small gift box. Looking at the small box, the Wang family was a little excited. Such a small box, it was probably filled with medicinal pills. When they thought of the pill that Feng Jiu gave them that day, and then looked at the small box today, their eyes fell on the box in unison. It was not the people below who went to take the box, but the Wang family head personally took the small box and then solemnly thanked Feng Jiu. "Thank you, Miss Feng. Miss Feng, please take a seat." Feng Jiu nodded slightly and was led to sit in the front seat, while Du Fan and the others sat behind her. "Miss Feng, we meet again." Old Master Wan called with a smile. When he saw Feng Jiu looking at him, he nodded slightly. Feng Jiu returned a smile and took a sip of the wine in front of her. Her behavior was languid, and her whole person exuded a casual and free aura, which made her look more and more different from others. "Some time ago, I heard that the Wang family and the Ruan family's marriage proposal failed. I didn't expect to see Old Master Ruan here today." Old Master Chun, who is also one of the 8 great families, glanced at Old Master Ruan and then at Old Master Wang, his eyes full of mockery. Hearing this, the surrounding people's eyes flashed slightly. Although some of them wanted to say something and stir up trouble, people like Old Master Chun, who was so straightforward, did not dare to speak. Now that they heard these words, their eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation. In fact, they also wanted to know what happened between the Ruan and Wang families. Why would the old ancestor of the Ruan clan accept an invitation and come to the Wang clan when the head of the Ruan clan was deposed and the third miss of the Ruan clan was sent away? Ha! Most of the people in Azure Demon City have some sort of relationship with me. As for the people sitting here today, some of them have some sort of relationship with me, and some of them have some sort of relationship with my Wang clan. Since you're able to attend my birthday banquet, you're all not outsiders. The Wang family's ancestor paused and looked at the Chun family's ancestor. The Ruan family's old man and I have been friends for decades. It's normal for our children not to like each other. We can't force them. After all, we can't arrange a marriage just because we like them, right? Besides, if we can't be in-laws, can we be enemies? Chapter 4204. Old Friend. With this toast, I wish you happiness as boundless as the East Sea and longevity as long as the South Mountain. With that, he downed the wine in one gulp. Good. Grandfather Wong responded with a smile and also downed his cup. Then, the servant poured another cup. This time, he gestured to the people around him and said, "This toast is to all of you. Thank you for coming to my birthday banquet today. Tonight, let's drink and eat to our heart's content. We won't go home until we're drunk." Everyone stood up and raised their wine glasses. After saying some good words, they emptied the wine in their glasses. As everyone sat down, the atmosphere gradually became lively. The sounds of discussion and conversation could be heard everywhere. "Ha ha ha. Miss, may I know your name?" A drunk man came to Feng Jiu and asked. Feng Jiu glanced at him indifferently and then said to Grandfather Wong, "I'll take my leave first." She did not like this kind of noisy atmosphere. Instead of sitting here, she would rather go back to the courtyard to lie down and watch the stars, drink wine, or cultivate. When a man came to Feng Jiu, Grandfather Wong's heart skipped a beat. Seeing that Feng Jiu was not angry, he hurriedly asked Wang Yu to take the man to the side to drink. He hurriedly went forward and said, Okay. Miss Feng, please go back and have a good rest." "Okay," Feng Jiu responded and then turned to walk out. Du Fan and the others naturally followed behind her. Late at night, the Wang family sent all the guests away. Today's banquet ended perfectly without any major accidents, which made them all breathe a sigh of relief. At this moment, the father and son of the Wang family and Grandfather Wang finally had the chance to sit together and take out the gift Feng Jiu gave them. Grandfather Wang looked at the two of them and said, "Last time, it was this kind of box. It contained elixirs. Do you think it will also contain elixirs this time? If it was an elixir, it would be a precious elixir of high grade. But how did Miss Feng have so many elixirs to give away? Open it and take a look," the old master said as he walked to the side and sat down. Seeing this, the Wang family head opened the box. When he saw the bottle inside, he could not help but say, "It's really another medicinal pill." As he spoke, he poured out the medicinal pill and said, "Could it be another advancement medicinal pill?" "No, this is an elixir to repair the internal elixir." Wang Yu looked at the elixir rolling out of the bottle, and her eyes lit up. "That's impossible, right? That kind of thing is indescribably precious." As the head of the Wang family spoke, he saw his father, who was originally sitting down and preparing to drink tea, suddenly stand up with his hands trembling. His eyes were fixed on the pill. This pill. He reached out his trembling hand. Even when he saw the advancement pill last time, he was not as excited as he was now. "Father, what's wrong?" Wang family head asked worriedly. "This is a 7th rank Niden. It can cure my internal injury from 10 years ago," Grandfather Wang said excitedly. Hearing this, Grandfather Wang could not help but exclaim in a low voice. As soon as his voice came out, he quickly went forward and closed the door of the hall. Then he stepped forward and said, "Father, if this is the case, then our Wang family is really stable this time." Chapter 4205. While he was excited, he couldn't help but wonder who this Miss Feng was. He couldn't help but ask again, "Father, who is Miss Feng?" The grandfather and grandson looked at each other, then told him Feng Jiu's identity in a low voice at noon the next day at the transmission formation in the back mountain of the Wang family. Grandfather Wang and the others came here with Feng Jiu and the others. He glanced at the formation and said to Feng Jiu, "Ghost Doctor, you all stand in the formation. After I activate it, you will be sent directly to the Cyan Demon Forest. You must be very careful inside." "Okay, we know," Feng Jiu responded and went into the formation with Du Fan and the others. "Take care," Grandfather Wang said, sighing in his heart. He didn't expect that the Wang family would have such an opportunity to meet Ghost Dr. Feng Jiu. Wang Yu, who was standing on the side, pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Seeing that the formation was about to be activated, he stepped forward and said, "Miss Feng, let me go with you. I also want to go there to gain experience. Besides, I'm at least more familiar with everything in the Cyan Demon Forest than you all." Hearing this, Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows. "You want to go with me? You know, that place may be a place of no return. Besides, if you go, I won't protect you, and I can't guarantee that you can walk out of there alive." Grandfather Wang hurriedly stopped him and said, Don't be impulsive. That place is not somewhere you can go with your current strength." He only had one son, so he naturally didn't want him to die like this. Back then, his father and the others had barely returned from the Azure Demon Forest. After returning, they had suffered extremely severe internal injuries. If it weren't for the spiritual medicine that the ghost doctor Feng Jiu had given them, they would probably be like this for the rest of their lives. Now that he heard that his son was going to go to the Cyan Demon Forest, he naturally objected. On the other hand, old Master Wang was startled when he heard this. He seemed to be seriously considering his decision. "I know it's dangerous, but I still hope to gain experience. Don't worry, I can protect myself," Wang Yu said, worried that she wouldn't agree. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled indifferently. "Since you've decided to go, then go. Don't regret your decision today." Wang Yu smiled and said, "I won't regret it." It was rare for him to have this opportunity to become stronger with them, so he naturally didn't want to miss it. Seeing this, the old man of the Wang family told Wang Yu some words and took out some things from his space and gave them to Wang Yu. He looked at them and then started the formation. The group of people disappeared along with the light emitted by the array. When they looked again, they had already disappeared into the array. "Cyan Demon Forest, Yi Fei Fei exclaimed. She felt that her whole body was sucked out by a force. She lost her balance and fell back a few steps until she sat upright. As she fell, Du Fan and Lung Shuang also appeared. However, the two of them were strong and steady, so they landed firmly on the ground. Wang Yu staggered when he landed, but he stood firm. Feng Jiu appeared in front of them with a flash of red light. Chapter 4206. Feng Jiu looked around and said, "According to the old man of the Wang family, we should go this way." She pointed to the front left. "We are still in the periphery, so it is not dangerous," Wang Yu said, looking at the lush trees around. There was no road around, and the weeds were as high as half a person. Because there was a lot of rain in the forest, the ground under their feet was very wet. He took a look and found that his boots had been stained with a lot of mud. When he lifted his feet, he could feel the extra weight on his feet. Feng Jiu looked at him, smiled, and asked, "Have you been here before?" "I have only been to the periphery with my clansmen. I have never been inside," Wang Yu said. "Then let's go. Let's go in this direction." She knew it was extremely difficult to find the ancient nine-tailed fox in such a large forest, but she had no choice but to rely on her luck. If she was lucky, she might find it soon. If she was unlucky, she might not find it even if she stayed here for a few years. Du Fan walked in front to explore the way, followed by several people. The weeds that were as high as half a person also stepped on a path as they walked. Except for Feng Jiu, Du Fan, and Lung Shuang, who had high cultivation, Wang Yu and Yi Fei Fei's boots stepped into the mud every time they walked. It was not easy for them to walk. On the contrary, if one looked closely at their feet, they would see that Feng Jiu and the other two were walking very lightly, as if they were stepping on cotton. There was only some dirt on the soles of their feet, and there was no dirt on the sides of their boots. The forest was very big, and the trees were everywhere. They walked for a long time, but they did not meet anyone. However, as they walked through the forest, they would sometimes startle some poisonous snakes. Before they could get close, those poisonous snakes would slither away with hissing sounds. On their first night in the forest, they found a place to rest. After a simple night, Feng Jiu said to Du Fan the next morning, "In addition to looking for the nine-tailed fox, this trip is also to let Fei Fei gain some experience. I'm not worried about your strength. Even if we're in this forest, I don't have to worry about you. Therefore, let's split into two groups. You take Fei Fei, and I'll take Lung Shuang and Wang Yu. Whoever finds the nine-tailed fox first will inform me through his communication jade. Du Fan glanced at Yi Fei and nodded. All right, I'll take her with me. Master, please be careful. Feng Jiu smiled. Don't worry, it's not her first time in this kind of forest. You'll have to take care of her. She doesn't have much experience in surviving in the forest. Feng Jiu glanced at Yi Fei and said to Du Fan, You have to let her learn something, but don't let her be on the verge of death. You have to control the amount. I know, Du Fan responded. Then we'll go first. Master, don't worry. I'll learn from Brother Du, Yi Fei said. After bowing to Du Fan and Lung Shuang, he went into the forest. Seeing them leave, Feng Jiu smiled and said to the two people beside him, Let's go. Wang Yu watched them leave and couldn't help but ask, Isn't the map with Child Du? We don't have the map here. When we go inside, won't we? Chapter 4207. As they continued to walk inside, Feng Jiu sped up, which made it difficult for Wang Yu, who was following behind. Because Lung Shuang could keep up, he was about 3 meters behind, and this was the distance he followed closely with spiritual power. As soon as he relaxed a little, the distance widened again. The two people in front walked very easily. After walking for a whole morning, the distance of about 3 meters became 5 or 6 meters. Lung Shuang glanced back and saw that Wang Yu was walking with difficulty. The corners of her clothes were stained with mud, and her boots were almost muddy. Her forehead was sweating and she was panting. Seeing this, she asked, Master, do you want to stop and rest for a while? I think he can't stand it anymore. Even if he had good cultivation, he was only a little stronger than people of the same age. How could he keep up with them, who had received strong training and had such strength? It was good that he could keep following them all morning. Feng Jiu smiled and said, Then let's rest under the big tree in front and have some food. As she said this, her figure flashed, and she went under the big tree in front of them. They rested for a while under the big tree, and then Wang Yu came and sat down beside them, panting. Seeing this, Feng Jiu asked with a smile, How is it? Is it okay? It's okay. He raised his sleeve to wipe the sweat and gasped. It's just that I almost can't keep up with you. It's normal that you can't keep up with us. Feng Jiu took out a glass of wine and took a sip, saying, It's still a long way to go. We'll have to climb over the mountain in front of us, which will be more difficult. Hearing this, Wang Yu couldn't help but ask, Don't we fly on the sword? Or fly on the sword? Won't it save more time? Feng Jiu smiled and said, It's okay, but it's not necessarily safer in the sky than down here. What's more, don't you want to experience it? How can you suffer some more? She raised her head and glanced at the lush trees. The trees covered the sky, and when she looked up, she saw a stretch of greenery. The trees here were all towering trees. Because of the cover of these trees, some flying beasts would not be able to discover them in the forest. However, because of this, walking in the forest was naturally not as fast as flying. That's true. He nodded and glanced at the trees above his head. Only then did he take out some water from his spatial ring to drink. He also took out some rations and handed them to Feng Jiu and the others. Eat something. We have some here, Lung Shuang said as he took out some pastries and handed them to Feng Jiu. Feng Jiu smiled and said to Wang Yu, Would you like some pastries? Wang Yu glanced at the exquisite pastries and shook her head. No, I'll eat these. Pastries were not as good as coarse grains. The three of them rested under the tree, eating and chatting. However, at this moment, a cry for help came from not far away. When she heard the voice, Wang Yu instinctively stood up and looked toward the direction of the sound. Someone is calling for help. I'll go take a look. As he spoke, he quickly walked in that direction. Feng Jiu and Lung Shuang looked at each other, shook their heads, and followed him unhurriedly. How could someone call for help in the deep mountains of forests? It was too much of a coincidence. When Wang Yu followed the voice, she saw a naked woman sitting in the weeds, sobbing with her hands covering her face, crying and begging, Young master, help. Help me. Chapter 4208. The woman picked up the robe and put it on her body. However, at this moment, it seemed that the wound on her body was pulled. She cried out in pain, "Ah, miss, what's wrong with you?" Wang Yu instinctively turned back and saw the woman lying on the ground, unable to move. Young master, help me." Aye. She turned back with tears on her beautiful face. Wang Yu hesitated for a moment, then walked forward and covered her body with the robe. He asked, "Miss, are you hurt? Why are you here alone? Did you get separated from your family? Or did something happen?" "My foot is hurt." "Aye." She rubbed her jade-like ankle with one hand. "Let me take a look," Wang Yu said, looking down at her foot. He lifted it up with one hand and pressed it with the other. "Does it hurt here?" With his head down, he did not notice that the woman's raised hand was about to fall. At this moment, Feng Jiu and Lung Xuan came out. She was so scared that she immediately withdrew her hand. She lowered her head and sobbed, secretly looking at them from time to time. "The bone is fine. Maybe it's just a sprain. It shouldn't be serious. There is no swelling," Wang Yu said and withdrew his hand. Seeing the woman looking behind him from time to time, he looked back and saw Feng Jiu and others coming. He said, "I saw this girl here when I came. There was no one else." "Yes," Feng Jiu responded with a smile. He glanced at the woman faintly and did not speak. Lung Xuan glanced at the woman. Her eyes moved slightly. Seeing that her master did not say anything, she did not speak either. "Young master, who are they?" the woman asked in a low voice. "Who are you? Why are you alone in this deep forest?" Feng Jiu glanced at her and looked around her body. He said ambiguously, "You haven't put on your clothes." Aye. The woman lowered her head and did not speak. "Now that you have rested, let's go," Feng Jiu said. He did not look at the woman again, but looked at Wang Yu. As soon as his voice fell, he walked away. Seeing this, Wang Yu could not help but hesitate. "But this lady, you'd better worry about yourself." Feng Jiu's voice drifted over. He didn't even turn around. "Miss, hurry and go find your family," Wang Yu said with a bit of embarrassment on her face. "I can't take you with me. I'm really sorry. If you follow this direction, you can get out of the Cyan Demon Forest." "Young master," seeing that he was about to leave, the woman hurriedly rushed forward and hugged his leg. With this movement, the robe on her body slid down, revealing her snow-white skin and a piece of spring scenery. Wang Yu blushed and quickly closed her eyes. "Miss, please respect yourself." "Young master, I'm not heavy," the woman said as she stood up. Seeing that Wang Yu's eyes were closed, she stretched out one hand and her fingers changed into sharp claws. She fiercely dug at Wang Yu's chest. "You're courting death." A cold voice sounded out, and a sword chi shot towards the woman. The woman was startled. She hadn't thought that the woman who had left with the two of them would turn back. When the danger approached, she instinctively cried out in alarm and dodged. Chapter 4209. Startled, he stumbled backward and fell to the ground. His eyes widened as he watched the woman turn into a monster and lunge at him. Her sharp claws were aimed at his heart. At that moment, he wanted to move, but his hands and feet would not listen to him. He could not muster any strength and could only watch helplessly. Whoosh! A sharp sword chi slashed through the air and hit the monster's shoulder, chopping off its hand. The monster roared, its sharp and ear-piercing voice resounding in the forest, echoing into the distance. After a while, the surrounding trees rustled in the wind, as if something was shuttling through the trees and shaking the leaves. It sounded like a howl with a hint of sharpness and chaos. It came from afar and came closer. As the sound came closer, the aura in the air also changed. "What are you waiting for? Stand up." Feng Jiu, who came out of nowhere, glanced at Wang Yu on the ground, then looked away and glanced around. He said, "Don't you want to practice? You can practice with these." Wang Yu's face turned pale. She asked, "What are these?" It was a woman just now. How could she? These are 1,000 illusion monkeys, also known as human-face monsters. They are good at imitating humans and transforming into humans to hunt and kill prey. Feng Jiu glanced at her and said, "They like to eat people's hearts the most." "You saw through it just now?" Wang Yu asked, feeling a lingering fear. It was a woman, but who knew that it was a monster? This can be considered as your first lesson. Remember this lesson, especially in this forest. Don't pretend to be a good person. Fengjiu said lightly. Watching Lung Shuang deal with 1,000 illusion monkeys, he called, Lung Shuang, come back. Let him practice. Lung Shuang quietly retreated. Because the 1,000 illusion monkeys were afraid of them, they immediately changed their target and attacked Wang Yu. Wang Yu was shocked and immediately braced herself to deal with them. However, she had not recovered from the shock, and soon there were more than a dozen wounds on her body. Seeing that she could not resist alone, Fengjiu shook his head and said, Go. Yes. Lung Shuang responded and rushed forward to help. Not long after, the dozen or so thousand illusion monkeys died under her sword. Only 1 or 2 escaped in a sorry state. Wang Yu panted and sat down against a tree. She looked at Fengjiu and Lung Shuang and said, Thank you for saving me. The more dangerous the forest is, the more monsters and fierce beasts there are. Some of them are even ones you have never seen before. So, the first thing you have to do here is to be alert. In addition to being careful, there's another thing. Don't meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Fengjiu said lightly. She stepped forward and said, Let's go. This is not the real danger yet. Wang Yu stood up with lingering fear. Seeing that the two had walked ahead, she immediately adjusted her mood and quickly followed. Behind them, she could not help but ask, Have you encountered this kind of monster before? Yes. Chapter 42:10. Hearing what she said, Wang Yu could not help but feel a little embarrassed. Indeed, his state of mind and reaction were far inferior to theirs. If he was calm enough, he would not put himself in danger. He walked beside the two of them, silently reminding himself that he must not make such a mistake again. There was a rustling sound around, which made Wang Yu alert. He walked quickly to Fengjiu and said, There seems to be some movement. Fengjiu glanced around, and her eyes fell on one place, saying, Well, there's a ferocious beast. Listening to her indifferent voice, Wang Yu's heart was in his throat. He held the sword at his waist with one hand and asked, Is that a fight or an escape? Fengjiu smiled and glanced at him, saying, You fight, and we watch. Today's meat is all on you. I know, Wang Yu replied, knowing that she wanted him to gain experience. So she said, That tree is high. You go to the tree and rest. Let's go, Fengjiu said to Lung Shuang. He tiptoed, jumped to the tree, and sat down on a branch. Lung Shuang also followed him to the tree. She did not find a place to sit, but stood beside Fengjiu holding the tree. It seemed that we are lucky today. Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and looked at the half-a-man-tall beast pig with thick black hair. He raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Ow! A beast pig with 2 curved teeth in its mouth rushed out with a howl and pounced on Wang Yu. Just then, another beast pig rushed out of the weeds behind Wang Yu. As the 2 beast pigs ran, the weeds on the ground were flattened. Each of them weighed about 150 kilograms, so the force of the collision was extraordinary. Wang Yu slashed forward with the sword in his hand, but found that when the blade fell on the beast pig, it made a clanging sound and sparks spurted out. The shock force shook him back a few steps. Ow! One of the beast pigs rushed forward toward Wang Yu, but after being dodged by him, it hit a big tree. With a bang, 2 deep marks appeared on the trunk of the big tree. Its reaction speed was not slow either. Seeing that it could not hit Wang Yu, it immediately turned back to attack again. The 2 beast pigs attacked Wang Yu from the front and the back. Because Wang Yu's sword could not hurt them at all, Wang Yu retreated step by step and was very embarrassed. Fengjiu just watched and did not take action. He saw that Wang Yu was overturned by one of the beast pigs, rolled on the flattened grass, and quickly jumped up. The sword in his hand was stepped on by one of the beast pigs. He immediately took out a dagger and pounced on it with a growl. He threw himself in front of one of the beast pigs, one hand grabbing its curved fangs, the other hand raising the dagger and stabbing towards its abdomen. Hiss! A mournful and hoarse squeal that sounded like a pig being slaughtered fiercely rang out. The beast pig, that was still struggling, suddenly knelt down with its front hooves. Its entire body fell onto the grass. Its mouth opened and closed as if it was gasping for air. Blood gushed out from its abdomen and quickly dyed its body red. Seeing this, Fengjiu raised the corners of his mouth and said, "You are not too stupid. You know that the beast pig's weakness is in its abdomen." Chapter 42:11. With the first success, it was much easier for Wang Yulai to kill the second boar. He used the same method to kill the second boar. Looking at the two ferocious beasts lying on the ground, he gasped, wiped his sweat, and looked up at the Fengjiu in the tree. "Ghost Doctor, are we going to roast them?" Fengjiu smiled and nodded. "Yes, roast them. Roast them all and eat them on the way." "Well, I'll go and pick up the branches." He exhaled softly and dragged the two ferocious beasts aside. Then he went around to pick up some dry branches, lit a fire in an open space, and set up a fire. However, looking at the two huge, ferocious beasts, he was a little powerless. In the past, it was his subordinates who did these things. He didn't know anything about dealing with ferocious beasts. He couldn't help but look at the Fengjiu in the tree. "Ghost Doctor, how do we do this?" Seeing this, Fengjiu raised his eyebrows. "You don't know how? I didn't do it before. I just roasted meat, but I didn't deal with it." He was a little embarrassed to say this. "Lung Shuang, go down and teach him. Just tell him and let him learn." Fengjiu said, motioned, and lay down on the tree with his hands on his chest, planning to sleep for a while. Lung Shuang flew over, came to his side, and said, "Let's see if there's a water source nearby." "Okay," Wang Yu responded. After looking around and finding a water source, she quickly ran back and told Lung Shuang. Finally, under her guidance, he cleaned up the two ferocious beasts alone. He put the meat on the rack to roast. At this time, there was a leisurely rest time. He asked, "Do you often go to the forest to practice? I think you're very familiar with the way of survival here." "Yes." Lung Shuang was a woman of few words, but since he asked, she answered. Wang Yu was busy under the tree. When he saw the roast meat dripping with oil and exuding the aroma of meat, he cut a piece and tasted it. He felt that it tasted good, so he cut another piece and gave it to Lung Shuang. "It's done. Have a taste." Lung Shuang gave it a try and said yes. As she spoke, she raised her head and her gaze fell on Fengjiu. Seeing that her eyes were closed, she called out, "Mistress, the meat is ready. Do you want to eat some?" The Fengjiu in the tree had actually woken up when the aroma of the meat spread. When it heard Lung Shuang's words, it sat down and jumped down from the tree, landing steadily beside Lung Shuang. Lung Shuang saw the smile, cut a piece of meat, and handed it to it. "Mistress, have a taste." Fengjiu sat on the wood under the tree, smelling the roast meat, and then tore some to eat. He said to Wang Yu, "Good cooking. We'll rely on you for our food on the way." "Okay." Wang Yu responded with a smile, and also cut a large piece to eat to replenish the strength consumed. After eating the roast meat, the three continued on their way. It could be said that the pause was very short. Along the way, except for some ferocious beasts, they did not meet half a person. Wang Yu, on the other hand, had improved rapidly along the way. Chapter 42:12. Children were always so innocent and beautiful. However, they did not know what Fengjiu was doing at this moment. She had been gone for so long. Not only did the children miss her, but he also missed her. His longing for her deepened. He looked at the sky, and it was as if the person he was longing for was smiling at him amidst the white clouds. "Dad, Dad, Dad," a childish voice sounded softly and pulled Xianyuan Mo's back from his daze. When he came back to his senses, he saw the two children with open arms and innocent smiles on their pink little faces. They walked step by step unsteadily towards him. There was still a distance between them, but the little guys directly pounced on him. He was so frightened that he quickly reached out to catch them. Ha! The two children pounced on him and rubbed against him. They giggled as if they were having a lot of fun. They tried to climb onto his lap, but could not climb up. In the end, they stretched out their hands and shouted, "Hug, Dad, hug. Come, Dad will carry you up." He rubbed the two children's heads lovingly and reached out to carry them up to sit on his lap. Hui Lang walked in from outside and saw Xin Yuan Mose sitting in the courtyard with the two children. He asked, "Master, do you want to take the two little masters out for a walk today? To watch the fun?" "No, let them play in the manor," Xin Yuan Mose said. He paused and asked again, "Is there any news about a Jew?" Hui Lang was stunned for a moment and shook his head. "No, Madam did not contact us." Even Fan Lin and the rest did not have any news about Madam. As soon as he finished speaking, he thought for a moment and asked, "Is Master worried about Madam? Do you want me to ask the servants to find out?" She did not send any news back. She should be fine. There's no need to ask. Xin Yuan Mose looked at the two children in his arms and said, "If she finds them, she will come back earlier." However, even he did not know when she would come back. Not being able to wait for her return, he was even more worried that something would happen to the two children before she returned. Qin Xian and Bai Qingsheng came in. They bowed to Xin Yuan Mose and said, "Yama Lord, we'll take the little master to the front to play. We'll feed them some food later." "Okay, go ahead," Xin Yuan Mose responded and gestured for the two of them to come forward and carry the two children. After receiving the two children, the two of them left. Xin Yuan Mose waved his hand and motioned for Hui Lang to leave. She carried the children to the front yard. Lung Hua and the others were also there. When they saw the two children, they smiled and took the children over, playing with them. "Little you, take a look at what I brought for you." Luo Yu's eyes narrowed as he smiled and took out a small plaything from his bosom. "There's one here, too. Little Chan, look, this is for you." He took out another one and handed it to little Chun who was being held by Qin Xian. "Go to the grass. Even if the little masters fall down, they won't feel pain," Qin Xin said as she carried the child to the grass on the side. The few of them followed and spread a large piece of cloth on the grass. Then they put the children down and let them crawl around and play with their toys. Chapter 42:13. The Yama Lord didn't let us use the communication jade token. They haven't sent us any news, so we don't know how they are doing. The Yama Lord is worried that the Master will be distracted. I guess the one who misses the Master the most is the Yama Lord. Luo Yu sighed and said, "Since the Master left, the Yama Lord looked the same as usual. However, we can still see from his expression that if he wasn't worried about the two little masters, the Yama Lord wouldn't stay here to guard them. It's a pity that the two little masters are still young. Otherwise, we can take them with us to find the Master. They are too young. It would be better if they were older. If they go to the forest, the humidity is too high, and they will easily get sick." Fan Lin looked at the two giggling children and said, "Now, we can only hope that the Master can find an ancient mythical beast for the two little masters to contract as soon as possible." In this mansion, it was quiet and secluded, sometimes accompanied by the children's pure laughter. On the other side, in the Cyan Demon Forest, there was a lot of danger after night fell. Sitting by the fire, Wang Yu asked, "Ghost Doctor, should we put out the fire? I'm worried that the fire at night will attract the ferocious beasts." The vision at night was not very good. Compared with the ferocious beasts, they couldn't see clearly. However, the fire was extremely dazzling, almost telling the ferocious beasts that they were here. "Don't worry. Have a good rest tonight. No ferocious beasts will come near," Feng Jiu said and patted the Tun Yun in his arms. Hearing her words, although he didn't believe it, he had no choice but to watch the surroundings vigilantly. If there was any movement, he would check it out. Feng Jiu leaned against the tree and fell asleep. The Tun Yun in his arms was lying lazily. It glanced around, stretched, and continued to lie in Feng Jiu's arms. Lung Shuang rested by the fire. She planned to keep watch at night, but after hearing the Master's order, she fell asleep by the fire as if she didn't worry about the danger at all. Wang Yu didn't know that Feng Jiu had left the aura of the ancient mythical beast around here. Even if the ferocious beasts were ferocious, they didn't dare to come close to this side. Therefore, they stayed far away, lurking and staring at Wang Yu and Feng Jiu by the fire with bloodthirsty eyes. Although he was vigilant, there was no movement in the first half of the night. In the second half of the night, Wang Yu fell asleep in a daze. It was not until the next morning, when the first ray of sunlight fell, that he found that Feng Nan and Lung Shuang had already woken up and were sitting aside looking at him. At that moment, he hurriedly jumped up. "Sorry, I was too tired last night and fell asleep. Get ready. We have to go on. There are a lot of ferocious beasts ahead," Feng Jiu said faintly. Hearing this, Wang Yu cheered up. After answering, he casually ate something and followed them into the depths. However, after walking for a while, his whole body tensed up. "Ghost Doctor, those ferocious beasts are following us," Wang Yu said and glanced around. He saw 20 or 30 ferocious beasts of all kinds. The bloodthirsty aura emitted from the ferocious beasts frightened Wang Yu. When the hell did this thing come? Why don't they attack us? Chapter 42:14. Hearing this, Wang Yu was stunned for a moment and could not help looking back. At this time, Lung Shuang explained to him, "My master's contract beast is an ancient mythical beast. As long as she releases the ancient pressure, ordinary ferocious beasts will not dare to approach." The implication was to tell him why the 20 or 30 ferocious beasts stared at them but did not attack them last night. "Lung Shuang and I are not strong enough to do this kind of training. You can have the opportunity." Feng Jiu smiled and looked at Wang Yu, saying, "You don't have many opportunities to practice. Don't miss this opportunity." Yes, I know. He knew that with their strength, there was no need for them to train. It was already very rare for them to be willing to bring him along. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the chance to train in this place. After a pause, he asked, "Ghost Doctor, do we need to deal with those ferocious beasts?" In fact, he felt that it was almost impossible for him to deal with the 20 or 30 ferocious beasts by himself. He was not strong enough to do that. "No, what you need to do today is to keep up with us," Feng Jiu said and walked forward. Lung Shuang saw this and followed her. Seeing this, Wang Yu, who was behind them, immediately calmed down and tried to catch up with them. However, when he caught up with them, he found that their speed had increased a lot, at least much faster than yesterday. He almost tried his best to follow them, but was still about 10 meters behind them. On the other side, Du Fan took Yi Feifei to practice in the forest, which was much easier than Wang Yu's. At this time, the two were resting under a tree. Yi Feifei was wearing a set of black clothes. This was the clothes that he had taken off before he set off, and he changed into it when he arrived here. The black clothes and skirt were less cumbersome, and it was more convenient for him to move around. It was more suitable for the clothes in the forest. Today, we will choose higher-level ferocious beasts to practice. You are familiar with martial arts and cultivation methods, but you still lack experience. Take this opportunity to practice. Du Fan looked at Yi Feifei and said, "Okay, Brother Du, I will work hard." She responded. Taking advantage of the rest time, she closed her eyes and sat cross-legged to adjust her breathing. At the same time, she practiced the attack techniques he taught her in her mind. Seeing this, Du Fan stood up and looked around. He then looked up at the sky. After a while, he asked her to follow him, and the two of them continued walking. After walking for some distance, Yi Feifei looked at the ground under his feet and then looked ahead. He was slightly surprised and said, "Big Brother Du, there are footprints on the ground, and there seems to be someone talking in front. Are we going to front?" "Yes," Du Fan replied and walked forward with light steps. As she walked further and further away, she could faintly hear the rough voice. Yi Feifei looked ahead and saw that it was a group of mercenaries. They were all wearing the same mercenary uniform, and some of them were bare-armed, revealing the messy old and new wounds on their bodies. Some of them had scars on their faces and looked very fierce. They sat in a circle, eating large pieces of beast meat in their hands. Perhaps they noticed the movement, so they quickly grabbed their swords and stood up, staring at the newcomers vigilantly. "Who are you?" Chapter 42:15. Du Fan's gaze swept across them. After secretly sizing them up, he cupped his hands and smiled. Hello, everyone. We are loose cultivators who are training in this forest. When we saw someone, we thought of coming over to take a look. Loose cultivators? The man who spoke stared at the two of them and sneered. Aren't you a little too bold? You dare to come here with just the two of you? Don't you know what this place is? Furthermore, I reckon that you're stronger than the rest, but this lady is so weak. How dare she come here? Are you courting death? Du Fan smiled and said, Actually, I wanted to ask you about the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox in the Azure Demon Forest. Is that true? You should be more familiar with the Azure Demon Forest. Have you heard of it or seen it before? Ha 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 ha. So you're here for the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox. One of the men raised his head and laughed. Then, he stopped laughing and looked at Du Fan. Your appetite is not small. You're actually here for the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox. However, I advise you not to waste your time. That ancient mythical beast is not something that anyone can see just because they want to. Let's not talk about you. Even we, who frequent the Azure Demon Forest, have never seen the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox. Another mercenary said with a smile, That's a mythical existence. Even if there is one, it would be in the depths. This place is far from the depths. How could an ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox appear here? Hearing this, Du Fan cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you for the information. We'll take our leave first. As he spoke, he was about to walk forward with Yi Fei Fei. At this moment, a mercenary called out to them. Hey, young man over there, I advise you to change your direction and go in another direction. You can't go forward. Hearing this, Du Fan stopped and asked, Why can't we go forward? The mercenary glanced at Du Fan and Yi Fei Fei before saying, The area ahead is the Azure Wolf Mercenaries area of activity. Those people only know how to rob. If you go there, you might not be able to return alive. He reminded them. He thought that they would turn back or change directions, but he didn't expect that the man would smile and thank him before continuing to walk forward with the woman. These two are really not afraid of death, the mercenary said and shook his head. Seeing that they were not afraid of death, he did not want to poke his nose into their business. Come, let's eat meat, they shouted, not paying attention to Du Fan, and continued to eat. As they walked forward, Yi Fei Fei was a little worried. Big Brother Du, those mercenaries said that there are people from the Green Wolf mercenary group up ahead. Do you think we'll meet them? Du Fan smiled, turned around to look at her, and said, Aren't you here to gain experience? Scared? It's fine if you don't run into them, but if you do, you can use them as practice. Me? Can I do it? She said uncertainly. She could take on a mercenary group alone? That was not possible. Don't worry, I'm here. I won't let you be in danger. However, in that kind of battle, it's the fastest way to improve your strength. Moreover, if we kill them, other than harming them, all their valuables will be ours. Chapter 42:16. Thinking back to when they were training, Du Fan smiled and said, We suffered a lot, much more than you are now. We often encountered those robbing mercenaries in the training forest. After we got rid of them, we also gained a lot of good things. Du Fan told her about his past training with Fengjiu as they walked. They did not see many beasts, nor did they meet the Green Wolf mercenary group. They found a place to rest when the sky darkened. Under the night sky, the bonfire burned. The branches crackled in the flames, and the sounds of insects and beasts could be heard. Yi Fei Fei rested by the bonfire. With Du Fan by her side, she slept peacefully. However, she was startled awake when she heard the faint sound of swords clashing in the night. What's wrong? Du Fan looked at her and asked. I heard the sound of swords clashing and screams. As Yi Fei Fei spoke, he stood up and looked around, but he couldn't tell where the sound came from. Du Fan poked at the bonfire with a branch and did not pay attention to it. He only said, There is no lack of killing in this place. Every day, the law of the jungle is played out. Whether it is man against man, beast against beast, or man against beast, only the strong can survive. The weak can only be killed. Yi Fei bit her lip and looked at him. Big brother Du, are we not going to take a look? What do we do if we take a look? Can you save them? Du Fan asked and looked up at her. Yi Fei lowered her head and did not speak. With her strength, she could not save anyone. Du Fan stood up and said, so you have to work hard to cultivate and become stronger. When you are as strong as us one day, if you want to save someone, you don't have to ask for my permission. You can save him yourself. As he spoke, he walked into the night sky. Let's go. Yi Fei was overjoyed when she saw this and quickly followed him. She knew that Big Brother Du was only stubborn with his words, but he had a good heart. The two of them pushed aside the weeds and trees and only stopped when they saw the scene in front of them. There were more than 20 corpses on the ground, and 3 young men and 2 young women were tied up. In addition, 2 middle-aged men were also tied up. Because of the cover of the night, they were not discovered by those people standing behind the trees. Therefore, they also sized up those people. Big Brother Du, are these the Green Wolves mercenaries that the mercenary from before mentioned? Yi Fei asked in a low voice. Judging from their clothes and armbands, it should be them. Du Fan replied, then continued. The ones who were captured should be the people from the clan who came to gain experience. The 2 middle-aged men are not weak either, but they were drugged and did not have the strength to resist. The young boy and girl who were tied up should be the disciples of those clans. Yi Fei looked and asked in confusion, why didn't those mercenaries kill them? For people like them, some mercenaries will capture people with status like them and ask for their families to pay a ransom. They can make a fortune out of it. Du Fan looked at those mercenaries and saw that there were more than 40 of them. In his opinion, their strength was not much, but they could be used by Fei to practice. Chapter 42:17. Yi Fei was startled by the sudden push and instinctively cried out. However, he quickly adjusted himself as he flew out. His spiritual power surged as he drew his sword and attacked one of the mercenaries. The sudden exclamation startled those people. The mercenaries shouted, "Who is it?" But they only saw a woman in a tight suit rush out, her long sword stabbing towards them. The nearest mercenary saw that it was a woman and couldn't help but sneer. So, if it's a woman, could it be a fish that slipped through the net? I'll take care of it. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure rushed towards Yi Fei. During this period of time, Yi Fei had been practicing martial arts and mental cultivation methods. Many of his attacks had almost become instinctive. Therefore, when he saw the mercenary attacking, Yi Fei turned the sharp sword in his hand, and a sword flower immediately shot out. Xiao. Several cold sword chi flew towards the mercenary. The speed was so fast that the mercenary was a little overwhelmed. However, the mercenary had the advantage of being stronger than Yi Fei and had quick reflexes. He immediately turned his body to the side and rolled on the ground before jumping up again. Feeling a slight pain on his face, he wiped it with his hand. When he saw the blood on his fingers, his aura suddenly became ruthless and gloomy. Bitch, see if I don't kill you. The mercenary angrily cursed. He took out the large knife at his waist and quickly slashed at Yi Fei. Seeing the blade coming at him, Yi Fei quickly dodged. The sharp sword in his hand turned and pierced through the opponent's shoulder at a speed that was too fast for one's ears to hear. Hiss! The mercenary hissed and swung the large knife in his hand upwards. At the same time, he lifted his leg and kicked Yi Fei away. You're courting death. Bang! With a bloodthirsty roar, his foot landed on Yi Fei's abdomen. With a bang, Yi Fei's entire body was thrown back several meters. At this time, the mercenary covered his bleeding wound with one hand and walked forward with a ferocious face. Old 10, this little girl is hot enough. Her looks are also pretty, and her figure is also not bad. Let's keep her for a while before killing her. A mercenary shouted, telling him not to kill Yi Fei yet. Hearing those words, the mercenary who was about to swing his sword retracted his hand and sheathed the sword at his waist. He stepped forward and grabbed Yi Fei's collar with one hand and pulled her up from the ground, raising his other hand to slap her face. Bitch, you dare to hurt me? I'll cripple you. Hiss. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the woman who was lifted by him throw his hand behind her. When he turned around, before he could react, the sharp dagger had already slit his throat. Blood spurted out like a fountain. His eyes were wide open as he stood there stiffly. His face was filled with unwillingness. Bang! Yi Fei pushed the man away, and the corpse fell to the ground. Only then did the surrounding people react and exclaim, "Old 10, kill that woman. Kill her." Several figures rushed forward. The sharp blades in their hands were filled with killing intent as they attacked Yi Fei. Yi Fei turned around and put the dagger back into his boots. At the same time, he took the opportunity to pick up the long sword on the ground and quickly face the attacks. Chapter 42:18. He did not make a move. Instead, he watched her exchange blows with those mercenaries. Gradually, her physical strength could not keep up, and her attack speed also slowed down. Once her speed slowed down, in the blink of an eye, her body was cut several times by the other party's swords and sabers. Yi Fei only felt pain when the swords cut through her clothes. Her black clothes were cut open, revealing a defensive garment underneath. Because of the defensive garment, even when the swords cut through her body, she wasn't injured. One of the mercenaries saw this and narrowed his eyes. The large sword in his hand slashed towards her neck, his sinister voice filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. Die! As his voice fell, his broadsword also chopped down. Because Yi Fei had blocked the attacks of the other mercenaries, in addition to the battle, she had used up a lot of her physical strength. At this moment, she was exhausted. When she turned back to look, she could only see the large sword descending, but she couldn't avoid it. It was also at this moment that Du Fan, who was hiding in the dark, flashed out from behind the trees. With an extremely fast speed, he grabbed Yi Fei's waist. At the same time, he waved the fan in his hand, and a strong wind accompanied by pressure attacked, sending the few mercenaries flying. Bang! Bang bang! Ah! The sound of bodies crashing to the ground was accompanied by their screams. In the night, the man who suddenly appeared gave them a fright. They thought that there was still an ambush in the dark. In an instant, dozens of mercenaries were on high alert. There's still an ambush. Everyone be careful. Du Fan hugged Yi Fei and stabilized her body before letting her go. He looked at the mercenaries and said to Yi Fei, who was beside him, "Watch carefully." As soon as he finished speaking, he moved his feet and his figure rushed out like a ghost. The fan in his hand opened with a swoosh and he attacked the mercenaries. Hiss! Ah! His actions were extremely fast, and the moment he attacked, the fan in his hand was aimed at the mercenaries' fatal spots. Those mercenaries didn't even have time to react before they died under his fan. Wherever he passed, the ground would be filled with corpses, and the thick smell of blood would spread in the air with the night wind. Du Fan was like an Azura reaping the lives of those mercenaries. Those mercenaries who possessed decent strength simply didn't have the slightest ability to resist. All of them were like fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Yi Fei's eyes lit up as she watched. Du Fan's speed was extremely fast. That footwork and attack style were all taught to her by him. However, even if she was familiar with it, she was not proficient enough to use it as freely as him. She couldn't help but smile as she watched the mercenaries die one by one without being able to put up any resistance. Big Brother Du's so powerful. He's so strong. The people who were tied up were stunned, especially when they saw Du Fan kill those mercenaries alone. They were so shocked that their eyes widened and their faces were filled with disbelief. The fan slashed the last mercenary's throat. Seeing the mercenary die with his eyes wide open, Du Fan narrowed his eyes and put away the fan in his hand. He turned to look at Yi Fei and asked, "Did you see it clearly?" "I saw it clearly." Chapter 42:19. Although he had seen it clearly, it would be difficult for him to do what he had done. Clean up the spoils of war. Du Fan said as he glanced at the corpses. "Okay, Yi Feifei replied as he kept his long sword and quickly cleaned up the area. In fact, he was just collecting all the valuable items from the mercenaries. Thank you for saving us. The two tied-up middle-aged men were the first to regain their senses and hurriedly thanked him. Dufan glanced at them and waved his hand. A wind blade slashed across and cut the ropes that bound them. He said, "You can leave on your own." When the two of them regained their freedom, they hurriedly untied the ropes on the few juniors. Hearing Dufan's words, the two middle-aged men looked worried. "Sir, can you let us follow you for the night? We have been drugged and have lost all our spiritual energy. The juniors are weak, and our fellow tribesmen are all dead. If you leave now, I'm afraid that we won't be able to survive the night." Dufan stood there and gently tapped the fan in his hand. He didn't say anything and only watched as Yi Feifei searched the mercenaries' belongings. Seeing that he didn't say anything, those people didn't dare to say anything and just stood there watching. Only after Yi Feifei had collected all the valuable items from the mercenaries did he come to Dufan's side and said, "Big brother Du, I just took a look. These mercenaries have quite a lot of valuable items on them." One of the young girls looked at Yi Feifei and then looked at Dufan. She whispered, "Our things were stolen by the mercenaries. Can you return them to us?" Little 16, the middle-aged man shouted and warned her with his eyes. Their belongings were indeed stolen by the mercenaries, but they didn't dare to ask the two of them to return their belongings. After all, if the two of them didn't appear, they might not even be alive right now. I was just thinking that if we didn't have those things, we might not be able to walk out of this forest alive. The young girl whispered, but didn't dare to say anything else. She just lowered her head. Hearing this, Yi Feifei glanced at Dufan and asked, "Brother Du, what do you think?" "I'll leave it to you," Dufan said. Hearing this, Yi Feifei smiled and said, "Then I'll return their things to them. As for the others, we'll keep them." After all, they weren't the kind of people who specialized in snatching things. Returning their things to them wasn't a big loss for them. Seeing this, Dufan smiled and nodded. Thus, Yi Feifei took out the cosmos bags and spatial rings that he had collected and placed them on the ground. He said, "Come over and identify which one is yours." Hearing this, the two middle-aged men and the youths and young girls were stunned. They didn't expect that they would be willing to return the items to them. For a moment, they hesitated. "Hurry up," Yi Feifei shouted. Seeing that she didn't seem to be lying, they stepped forward and bowed to the two of them. They said, "Thank you very much." As they spoke, they pointed out their things and told them what was inside. Yi Feifei opened it and looked. After confirming that it was as they said, he returned the items to them. Chapter 42:20. Under Dufan's lead, the group of people left the area filled with the smell of blood and sat down to rest under a tree. Because the surroundings were dark and unsafe, they did not pick up branches to start a fire and instead sat down to warm themselves. "Big Brother Du, this defensive suit is really useful. Look at the few cuts on my clothes, but there is no blood." Yi Feifei, who was sitting beside Dufan, said as she pulled on her clothes. "There are only a few cuts, but there was no physical injury." A smile appeared on Dufan's face as he said, "The defensive suit naturally has defensive capabilities. However, it's also because those mercenaries aren't that strong. If you encounter a true powerhouse, the defensive suit you're wearing won't be able to withstand their attacks. If we met a truly strong opponent, don't we have Big Brother Du?" "I'm not afraid," she said with a smile, and took out a cloak from her space, draped it over her body, and leaned against the tree to sleep. Dufan looked at her and secretly shook his head with a smile. He did not sleep, and only closed his eyes to rest, listening to the roars of beasts in the night. Perhaps because of the smell of blood from the mercenaries' corpses, the beasts in the night followed the scent of blood as if they were not far from them. Because of the roars in the night, the faces of the young men and women on the other side were pale. They huddled together, looking around worriedly, and did not dare to sleep. The next morning, Yi Feifei was woken up by Dufan. She opened her eyes and saw Dufan standing up and quickly stood up as well. She kept her cloak and asked, "Big Brother Du, what's wrong?" "Someone is coming," Du Fan said, looking in a direction and slightly tilting his head to listen. After a while, he said, "There are quite a few people, probably some of the people from the families who are training." Because the mercenaries they met yesterday said that this area was the Green Wolf mercenaries' area of activity. Other mercenaries didn't dare to come close. Therefore, the only explanation was that this person was a member of the clan who came to train. The two middle-aged men stood to the side with a few disciples from their families. They were also looking in the direction Du Fan was looking at. Not long after, they saw a group of people walking towards them. After seeing these people clearly, they were slightly relieved. This was because these people were indeed from a family that had come to gain experience. Moreover, they were people that they knew. "You too, they are from a family that we know. Please allow us to go over and say a few words," the two middle-aged men said as their gazes fell on Du Fan. "Since you know them, then follow them," Du Fan said. He didn't pay much attention to them and continued to lead Yi Fei into the depths of the forest. Seeing that they had left, the two middle-aged men heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly walked towards that family. "Brother Wei, it's great to meet you here," said the two middle-aged men as they hurried forward. "It's you." The middle-aged man leading the group looked at them, and then looked in surprise at Du Fan and Yi Fei, who had left. He asked the two in front of him, "Why are you here? Aren't the two who left your men?" "You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.